Hey guys, Michael Jorgensen here. This is going to be a real raw fucking course where you're going to learn something. And I'm going to cuss and there's going to be some bullshit. I'm not going to waste a bunch of fucking time on any of the regular shit that you see. This is going to be a course about how to fucking pick up the phone and get a fucking appointment, right? And I'm going to tell you exactly how it is. I'm going to tell you the real shit. I'm going to tell you how I cried my fucking eyes out. I'm going to tell you how I called my mom. I'm going to tell you how much money I made. Plenty of money. I'm not a millionaire, but I'm fucking comfortable and I'm fucking happy. And I know I can pick up the fucking phone anytime I want and get a fucking deal. And I want you to feel exactly the same fucking way. So this course, how to cold call Mark Cuban, what I'm going to do is I'm going to teach you how to pick up a telephone and call and get yourself an appointment with almost anyone that you want, which is exactly what I've done. I started doing telephone sales right out of college. I graduated early and I started selling Yellow Page ads. I was on the #1 inside sales team in the country and I was fucking horrible. And everyone else was so good. They were so good. They were making so much money. And everyone else that was making any more money than them, they were really good too. And then the two guys that were the best in the company, well, they recruited me for their own company and then they taught me how to do this, right? Then I left and I went on my own. I've been on my own for a long time. I only worked in the corporate world, I think, for like 4 or 5 years. After I left that Yellow Page job, I went to the St. Petersburg Times, which was one of the top 10 newspapers in the country. And there was a sales contest or incentive. And the sales manager asked me in front of everybody, I'd only been there a month. He's like, how does everybody like that, that offer? And I said to him, I said, well, they seem to be really interested. And he goes, well, maybe they can show you how to turn that interest into some actual closed deals. And boy, did that shit piss me the fuck off. Oh, fucking boy. So, closing deals is one thing, but getting somebody on the phone and getting an appointment, that's a fucking deal in itself. So you have to remember that the rejection rate in nature, it's like 90%. I'm not going to fact check it. You know it. It's 90%, 9 out of 10. No matter how good you are, 9 out of 10 times, you're probably going to fail, right? But then that means 11%, you're doing really fucking good. And 15%, you're doing amazing, right? And people always talk about, oh, I close all my deals. I don't. My worst deals are people that call me that want to buy from me. Those are the deals I mess up the most. The easiest deals, the best deals, usually, aside from a really hot referral, is when you pick up the phone, you call and you get your own appointment. So that's what I'm going to lay out on these next videos, modules, lessons, whatever the fuck you want to call it. But I'm going to teach you how to pick up the fucking phone and get yourself an appointment. You need to know how to sell. That's something else. We're not going to spend time on that in this. That's comprehensive. We're not doing that shit. I'm going to teach you how to pick up the fucking phone and get an appointment. So in this module, we're going to talk about mindset and why it's so fucking important to have the right fucking mindset. The thing is, I have good news and bad news for you. Sales is hard. It's really hard. And cold calling is really fucking hard. But here's the good news is that you can make a lot of money. You can control your income. You don't have to make as much as somebody is telling you you can make. You're not working by the hour. If you're making cold calls, you're probably getting a commission. So the good news is the sky is the limit. There's not really any limit to how much money you can make in most cases. I know sometimes some jobs, some careers, corporate roles, they'll limit you, which is why I don't work at those anymore. So if you can pick up the phone and call someone and ask them for money, basically, time, ask them for an appointment, then you can probably get that money and you can probably get that time. And the product that you're selling, it really doesn't matter. So at some point, you're going to have the power to basically break free. And that's the whole point of having the right mindset, is because when you're making around cold calls, you're going to get a lot of rejection. And that's really going to drain your tank if you don't have the right mindset. If you don't know, you have to know. 9 out of 10 people are going to tell you no. Yeah. And 9 out of 10 days are going to be shitty, right? 1 out of those 10 days is going to be awesome. Realistically, as you get better over time, you get more consistent results, and the number goes above that. But you got to know that the baseline is that 9 out of 10 people they're not going to want to have an appointment with you. It's because they are not willing, they're not able, or they don't have the money. Now, if they don't have those three things lined up for you, and you change their mind, they're gonna return that shit, and they're gonna complain about you. They're gonna call your manager. They're gonna write a review. If it's your business, they're gonna make it really fucking hard. They're gonna make it difficult. They may badmouth you. So one thing before we get into it is you're not looking for people who you have to talk into anything. That's bullshit. You shouldn't have to spend your time convincing people to buy when so many people do want to buy. And I'll tell you why people are going to want to set appointments with you. 3 reasons every business loses customers. Number 1, their customers die. People die, it sucks. People move away, right? And then people aren't having their needs met. So at any given time, every business, no matter how good they are, is struggling with those 3 customer retention problems. That's where you're going to come in and you're going to get your appointment. So know up front that there are people who will literally say, I have been waiting for your call. I have been waiting for a company like yours to contact me. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to have yourself under the mindset that you are going to war, that you are going out there and you're going out to battle. Now, the battle is not against the people. The battle is not against anybody else. The battle is against yourself because you're not going to want to pick up the phone. See, when I started, I was selling Yellow Pages and I was on the number 1 inside sales team in the country. And everyone around me is making these phone calls and they're closing deals. I'm struggling to sell a $300 a month ad. They're selling $5,000 a month full page ads and up, going on vacations, company, all kinds of awards. Lots of money, showing me their checks, telling me, kids, you got to do it this way. You got to get people excited, right? And here I am just sitting there terrified. I would call my mom on the way home and I would cry because it was so hard. That's the feeling I had. So that's where I started, is crying in tears because it's so difficult. So know up front that, even some of the very best people at this, it's difficult some days. Some days you struggle, some days you won't. That's okay. When you are making these calls, another thing is in your head, you are going to want to spend your commission. You're going to spend your money. When you get an appointment, you're going to already spend it on something in your head. Do not do that. If you get an appointment that you know is probably going to lead to a deal, or you're getting a lot of appointments, don't spend the money in your head. Don't imagine what you're going to buy with it. Do not. Here's why. You may spend that money and you've spent it emotionally, and it's way harder to lose money emotionally, right? So you don't want to get attached to that outcome. You don't want to spend any money until you get it in the bank, right? So the mindset to have when you're going into making cold calls is that you're the fucking man or you're the fucking woman and you're going to get that fucking shit done, right? A lot of times what happens, it's the very last call of the day that will be your best call. So a lot of times it'll be 450 or 350 or whenever you decide to give up. You've made your 100 calls or you've spent your hours on the phone. You've done whatever your goal is and it's time to go. I am telling you, I have gotten so many deals from just making one more call. So you have to have this attitude, I'm going to make one more call. There's got to be somebody out there that is waiting for me. Right? So when you're making one more call, then it also comes down to when you're making calls and you want to get up and you want to walk away, or you want to make a note, or you want to check the internet, you want to do something, you want to get a drink. I want you to go, I'm going to make one more call before I do that. And if just one time a day, when you want to walk away from this, when you want to take a break, if you don't have momentum, you decide to make one more call, it's going to add up and it's going to be the best calls. Now, if you don't get the call on the first day or the second day, don't get discouraged, right? Let's try 10 days if it's 9 out of 10 days. But it's going to be 9 out of 10 calls with what I'm going to teach you in the system. It's going to be very clear, very straightforward. There are hard principles that I follow that I find to be successful. Some of them are controversial. For example, like my attitude on leaving messages, which may be a big surprise to you. So when you pick up that phone, when you make those calls, remain confident. Do not get shook. most people are not going to need your service or product. They're not going to want it, or they may not have money for it. None of those are your fault. What we're going to do is we are going to hurry up as fast as we can to find the yeses so we can spend as much time as possible talking to people who want to buy from us, instead of spending time talking to people who are not able to buy from us or do not want to buy from us. And then once we get that mindset kind of in our DNA and our bones, and it's how we think and it's the essence of what we do, then overall, when you think about making these calls, you're going to know that phone is like a golden goose, right? You're going to know that cold outreach, it's not a thing to be ashamed of. It's not a thing if you don't have business. It is making deals. It is getting in touch with people that don't know you exist or are literally waiting for you to call. So I hope you're hype. I'm going to continue to break things down for you step by step, thought by thought, so you know exactly what you're getting into and you know what to expect when you fail, you know what to expect when you win, and you know what to expect overall. This module, is going to be about setting goals. Now, for cold calling, setting goals, what you want to do is you want to get appointments. An appointment is a sale. If you can get an appointment, then you can get yourself an opportunity for a sale. You do not want to get bogged down really trying to sell your product over the phone, especially on the first call. So your first call really is to find out, it's really to get on the phone with the decision maker. That's your first goal, is to figure out who the decision maker is and actually speak with them. Beyond that, what you want to do is you want to set an appointment. So setting appointments is the goal, is the outcome, is the sale. When you set an appointment, you tell the person subconsciously, I am a busy person and I don't have time to speak with you right now. So when you're making these calls and someone wants to speak with you, if the vibe is right, it's going to be very tempting to speak with them and to explain your product. But as a general principle, if you have to make it one decision or another and be consistent, you genuinely are trying to set an appointment with them, because right now what you're doing is, hey, I am making some calls. I'm making some calls to some businesses that I think would be great partners with us, great companies for us to work with. And I just wanted to call you to find out if you are open to the possibility of having a meeting with me, of scheduling a meeting with me. And you want to stop just like that. So your goal is going to be to get an appointment. Now, you're going to want to know, how many calls, Michael, should I make in a day? How long should I spend on the phone? Now, the standard goal I've always used, no matter if I worked in Yellow Pages, direct mail, for myself, for media companies, the goal is make at least 100 phone calls per day. You want to document them, but you usually want to make at least 100 calls per day. In some situations, it's going to be okay for you to make 10 calls. Now, it's not going to be okay based off of this next principle, but if you make 10 calls and you get 1-2 appointments, if you are self-employed or working on your own, you have other things to do, I consider that a successful day. But if you have blocked off that it's time for you to make your cold calls, I would go with the goal of making at least 100 calls. Now, you want to document those calls, whether or not you left a voicemail, that sort of thing. And I'm going to explain to you as we go through a principle I have about not leaving voicemails, which we'll get into, because you are not getting paid to talk to a voicemail. You're not getting paid to leave messages. So we'll get into that later on. But you want to make about 100 calls. You want to document them, who you talk to, when is the best time to call back. And you usually want to save those in a system like HubSpot or any CRM you may be using, or sometimes just with the old-fashioned pen and paper and a notebook or a notepad. I like to use a legal pad. Another approach for you is to look at being on the phone for about 4 hours a day. Now, that's the big boy. That's the Mac Daddy goal. That's the big shit right there. So that's if you're full-time sales, right? Or you're full-time, if you are making calls to clients or, former clients. But if you're just using the telephone to make money, you want to be on the telephone for about 4 hours a day. And it is easy to trick yourself and kid yourself that you are on the phone for 4 hours, if you're just talking to people who are willing to talk to you, if you're just talking to somebody that's a receptionist, and they're not really giving you information, or you're trying to pitch or sell your product, or you're getting into the details and that's making your phone time go up, that is not the phone time I'm talking about. I want you to have 4 hours of phone time of you setting appointments with people, figuring out when is the right time to meet, when is the right time to follow up, who's the right person to speak to. I want you to gather information that will get you closer to your goal. So 2 to 4 hours is generally a good sign of the amount of phone time you've had in a day when you're doing well doing telephone sales. So the last principle that I'm going to go over is called the one more call principle, and it warrants its own module, and we're going to go a little deeper into it. But you always want to make one more call at the end of the day, or one more call when you feel like getting up, or one more call when you've been successful and you can go home for the week. We're going to touch on that in the next module. So what I want to focus on in this module is the principle of one more call. You should just make one more call, and I'll explain what that is. So when I started my career, I was selling Yellow Page ads over the phone, and I'd mentioned it was so emotionally tough and draining that I would cry my eyes out on my way home talking to my mom, because it was just hard to make these calls, and I was looking for coaching, looking for my sales manager to help me out. And what he did is he walked me over to a guy. He goes, let me show you the guy that makes the most money here. And we're talking, a couple $100,000 selling Yellow Page ads over the phone. So he walked me over and he goes, you know what the difference is between this guy and everybody else? When he gets a big deal on Friday, most other people, they go home. They made their money, they're happy, they celebrate, they go home. What this guy does is he works until the end of the day, and he goes home with 2 or 3 deals. And every Friday when people go home with their 1 deal, he goes home with 3 of them. So that stacks up. And, when I was in there, there was another guy who had been there forever who always got to go on, safaris and company sponsored trips, because he was one of the top salespeople. And so he would make most of his calls after 5 o'clock. That I walked over by his desk. I was on my way home, and I stood there for a second because he was making a really good call. And in between calls, I said, "Hey, man," I said, how late do you stay?" He goes, "Well, most people get out of here at 5, Michael, but the truth is, this is when business owners are available. So that's when I call them, and that's why I get here at 7 to make my calls. Everyone calls during the day when these guys are busy." So he would stay and he would make one more call, right? And so there's another way you can apply this principle. And my uncle, who is a top sales manager at a timeshare resort here in Florida, top, he always says the next call is the best call, right? And one of my business partners says you can stay broke or you can make one more call, right? So one more line of text, one more email, one more outreach, one more thing could be the difference. And a principle that worked for me specifically out of all this is, when you want to get up, when you've made your 100 calls, or you've worked for an hour and a half, or you've gotten your deal, or you want to get some coffee, or you just want to step away to clear your head, any reason that you can think of just to get away for a second. If one time every day, not every time, but if one time every day you can just stay there and make one more call, these calls for me have oftentimes turned into the very best deals. So if you want to not only get better at sales and cold calling, but you want better results, you're going to need some sort of hard activity to do it. And so I would say at the end of the day, make one more call. When you're ready to get up, just sit down and make one more call. And over time, those will add up, and you'll find that will be the difference between a person who's not that talented of a salesperson, or not that well spoken, or whatever qualities is that you look at or I look at. If somebody's making one more call and not leaving, just because they got that deal, and they're working while it's time to work, that person is going to excel. And I've seen it personally. On my way out the door at that Yellow Page company, there was a guy that came in, and a lot of the older guys had some pretty rough, I don't want to say hazing, but some pretty rough rituals, and they would make a pretend call. And this guy was very, very bad. He was terrible on the phone. It was really bad. You'd hear it and you're like, man. But he followed all the steps, right? And over time, years later, I found out he was the number one person. So It doesn't matter if you're not the best, but if you're doing the things that the best people do, how are you not the best as well? And on this video, we're going to talk about where to find leads. If you're going to cold call, you need people to call. So leads that come into your company, those are warm leads. Leads that you meet in person, people who ask you for a meeting that you have an introduction with. We're not worried about those people. We're talking about finding opportunity, creating opportunity out of thin air, making money out of thin air, making things happen. Being a closer, as I mentioned before, the deal you're trying to get on a cold call is to set an appointment. It's not really appropriate in most cases to try and sell or explain your product on a cold call. So we are not worried about trying to sell people or get people to buy. We are worried about, or our goal is, we're not worried about it, but what we're going into is we're going to set an appointment so we can get a sale. We're going to set an appointment with someone who wants the appointment, who's willing to set the appointment, who's able to set the appointment, who's excited about it and looking forward to it, that's communicative. Where do we find these people? So there's a few scenarios here. If you are going after small business or small market enterprises, your local orthodontist, or you're going after your local attorney or construction company, even a multi-location company that maybe has a home base in your area. If you're going after someone like that, it's going to be a little bit different approach than if you're going after, let's say, a startup that maybe has some Series A funding or is approaching some funding or has raised money and made an announcement about it. Or even if you're going after, a blue chip company like Nike, or even if you want to speak with someone like Mark Cuban, which I did, and I'll explain to you how I did that. So the various ways you can find leads. I'm going to start with Mark Cuban so you understand where this whole thing came from and what this is all about. When I moved to Los Angeles, it was following my career selling direct mail, newspaper ads, PPC, management, and Yellow Pages, and as well as superpages.com, which was an online Yellow Pages. So following that, I moved to Los Angeles and I pursued a career in the music business. And I ended up working with the gentleman who was in charge of all of the music production for American Idol. And I was essentially his assistant. And for the studio, I had the responsibility and the privilege to make deals, to make things happen, to set appointments with people. And this is how I made money. This is how I made a commission. And so this gentleman that I worked for had been in the industry for a very long time. He's a very established person. And he purchased, it's called an A&R directory. And the A&R, they're in charge of the projects essentially, and within this is everybody's phone number, and this directory is, I think it's $300 or $400. It's like a little phone book, right? And in that phone book was Mark Cuban's phone number. So I called it and I left a message. I know I have a policy on not leaving messages. Don't look for contradictions here. I can explain why. I left a message. I said, hey, this is Michael Jorgensen. I'm with Brad and American Idol, and just calling to see if there's any possibility that you'd want to talk to us about working on some projects. That's it. Within 30 seconds, my phone rang. I said, hello, Michael Jorgensen. He said, hey, Mike, this is Mark. How can I help? Oh my gosh, I'm on the phone with Mark Cuban, right? Another person I got a great cold call with, is just speaking of you can call anyone, I cold called Jeffrey Katzenberg, the CEO of DreamWorks, and I got him on the phone within just a few minutes, just a couple of minutes of hold time. I found the number in the directory, I called, and his assistant answered. I said, hey, this is Michael. I'm with American Idol and Brad. We do production, and I'm just calling to see if Jeffrey would be open to setting a meeting to speak with Brad. And she said, hold on 1 second. And within just a few minutes, Jeffrey Katzenberg is on the phone with my boss for a deal. Another person I would cold call, let's see here. I mean, the list goes on. I cold called everybody in that book. I picked up the phone, and I got on the phone with them. But the idea is that you can cold call anyone, right? So I found the number through a specialty directory, through basically a leads directory, which you could purchase or find or have access to. Another method that I would use is just simply asking, hey, this phone number, I'm trying to reach this person. How might I get the number? Could you give me the number to get in touch with them? And sometimes people say yes, sometimes people say no. But asking for a number to get in touch with someone who you're looking for, or asking how you may speak with them. There are ways to open the door that are not pushy or salesy or cheesy or feel sleazy, right? Let's see here. Another way to get leads is simply to send a message on LinkedIn, right? You can say, hey, I want to outreach to you. So we're talking about cold calling over the phone, but I want to make sure we cover everything. So you can simply send a message. So there's a gentleman that I set a meeting with, and it was for an e-commerce project with a budget of about $50,000 a month. And I just simply sent him a message in regards to something he posted and said, hey, would you be open to meeting with me, open to meeting with us, right? Let's see here. So in a situation like that, that is the idea. You can contact anyone and you can ask them for a meeting. You can just simply contact them and ask them. So for me, when I was working in Yellow Pages and direct mail and newspaper, and I had local clients, the thing that always helped me stand apart and always helped me get better numbers in sales was I would collect anything that I could find that businesses would advertise in. There's coupon books like this all over the country that have, every sort of different type of business in here, AC companies. You'll learn over time, a small business is not going to have the same budget as an AC company, but you can literally call this company, any company in here who is willing to advertise, who's advertising consistently. They're spending money on advertisements. So you can call them and you can say, hey, I wanted to set a meeting with you. So if they're advertising, they're spending money. So it doesn't matter if your product is not media or ads, they are spending money. If you're looking for certain types of businesses, let's say that you sell, parts, you sell industrial parts to AC contractors, you can set your meeting with the AC contractor to sell them the parts based off of the idea that they're buying a full page ad. So for example, this transmission company is buying a full page color ad. So if you're selling parts or grinder pads or a thing of that nature, this would be a good place to start. So you can just call the number in here, right? And the same thing within these local newspapers, you have all these guides they publish, and everybody in here that's advertising, it doesn't matter the size of the company, they're all a candidate. So, you'll learn over time, pardon me, to recognize that there are, within the local newspaper that they throw in your yard, well, in here there's usually a thing called a service directory. Oh, a bulletin board, there it is again. All of these are good leads for you to cold call. You can go down Google listings and you can try and determine, who's active and this and that. That's a way to do it. I like to start with this. I always had a box of these direct mail pieces that came in, magazines, anything local where someone was buying an ad, even phone books. I would target everyone, right, that was spending money, especially full page ads. So another way that I would find leads when I was working in Yellow Pages is I would Google the new business registry. So a lot of states and counties publish the business records, the business licenses. So a lot of them put out a monthly report of every business that got a new business license. So it made sense to call them and sell them a Yellow Page ad at that time because they had just opened their business. Not all of them were ready, but some of them were. It wasn't their first business or they had a budget for an ad. So, another thing that, I would do with my agency is you can find all of the listings for, let's say, chiropractors. Anyone that has a license with the state, that is usually published as a CSV file or a PDF file, and you can literally find all of the people listed in your state that have a chiropractic license and their cell phone number. So that is available, right? So you can find those numbers. There are softwares out there that will scan web listings, scan LinkedIn listings, and give you phone numbers. That could save a lot of time. I'm of the nature that, I look for, when I'm out, I look for, work trucks, white trucks, contractor trucks, and I write the phone number down. Or I look at billboards and I write the phone number down, or I'll see a business and write the phone number down, or the location and give them a call if it's a new business in the area. So you always are on the lookout for numbers to call. You can keep them in your phone, you can keep a notepad, you can just remember, but we're talking about where do you find these cold leads from? Where are you going to find? So, you've got like these magazines that attorneys will publish with a directory of all the attorneys. It'll say like best of, and then within there in the back is a listing of all the attorneys' offices. Those are all great candidates. They're all doing something to have their name out there, so they're all at least showing some sort of buying signal interest that they're going to spend money to grow their business, no matter what your product or service is. As long as it's aligned with them, that's a good indicator, right? That they're trying to grow and expand. You can use, another thing I learned about, setting appointments and cold calls. I want to talk about blue chip companies real quick. So, I had a client and, I basically told them, I said, hey, watch. I'm going to call Nike and get you an appointment first thing, first call. I did. So you have to make the calls. Not every call was like that. So I looked up on LinkedIn or Google, who's in charge of marketing for Nike, found the name, and I called them. Right? And I said, hey, may I speak with so-and-so? And they said, yes. Who are you calling with? I said, hey, I'm calling. We have this Snapchat printer. It's this really cool technology we developed, and I'm just calling to see, if there's any possibility, we could set a meeting about talking about it. And I got through, and we set that meeting, and we did that pitch, right? So, another way that's happened. Kind of going back to LA for a second. I'm sure you've heard of the game Guitar Hero, one of the biggest games ever. I looked up who invented Guitar Hero. Who came up with it, because I was trying to think of what are the biggest media products, right? Because I was on behalf of American Idol is the name I could drop, right? So who's the biggest projects we can work with? So at that time, Guitar Hero, right? So there was two people, and the one I could find the phone number for, his last name was Japanese. I Googled him, and I saw some press that said that something aggravated him when people pronounce his name wrong. So I called the Japanese Language Institute. I Googled that. And I said, hey, I'm calling to find out how to pronounce this name, right? And I called, and I left him a message, and I said, hey, my name's Michael. Actually, I don't think I left him a message. He answered the phone, and I said, oh, I'm looking for Mr. So-and-so, right? And he said, Michael, he said, I am very impressed with the way that you pronounce my name. Do you speak Japanese? And I said, no, sir. I said, I called the Language Institute because I saw that it was a pet peeve of yours, and he laughed and he said, well, Michael, we don't have any projects open right now, but, I was really respectful of you. Well, a few days later, their main engineer came and booked out the extra room in our studio. So we did get that project. So, I looked his phone number up. I Googled it, and it was, one of those things where it just popped up. So if you Google the name of a person and their company email address, or Google their name and just type the word phone number, that is a way for you to find these people's phone numbers who are people you think that you could never get in touch with. Sometimes, there was a time that I called, there's a gentleman, Bruce Swedian, who is he was the engineer for Thriller, Michael Jackson's Thriller. And his phone number was listed on a church PDF for the local town he lived in for some other thing. And I called him. And I left him a message. I said, hey, I'm leaving LA. I'm coming back to Florida. And he called me like a couple of weeks later. He said, Michael, this is Bruce Svedian. And he called me back, right? So, we'll talk about the leaving messages theory a little bit later and when it's appropriate and not appropriate, coming up on the next video or one in the series. But definitely the idea here is that you can call anyone and you can get them to speak with you, and to find their phone number is not very, very hard. So, when it comes to like a blue chip company, just Google the name of the person. A lot of times there's an annual report that's published every year. And that annual report will have the contact information, the actual phone number, office number of the corporate officers. So it's okay for you to start with the chief marketing officer of a humongous company and work your way down. It's okay. Those people can funnel you to the right person, right? So then another scenario is when you have, let's say, a startup you're interested in, or an industry where that type of startup is good for you, your company, your products or services, and you want to get in touch with them inside a meeting. Maybe you read they just got Series A, Series B, Series C funding, or they just got their first round of funding. If you're keeping track of the news tickers, or you have connections in the industry, so those people you can call. There's small companies a lot of times, like 5 core people to 25 people. There's small companies. You can say, hey, is the person in charge of marketing there, please? And they'll say, who is this? And when you tell them who you are and you have a good fit and you have a good elevator pitch, which we can talk about coming up, they're going to set a meeting with you. They're going to be curious what you have, how you can help them. A colleague of mine just sold his esports betting company. And I remember in the beginning, he'd asked me for a proposal. I met him because I worked alongside them in Seattle. And his partner, a CEO who was in charge of Microsoft Ventures, I saw a video of him telling a story about an ad agency or a PR firm that called him, and he thought that their pitch was weak, and then he didn't understand their company, that they were just pitching him something plain. So this shows that even a CEO who sold a major computer company in charge of startups for Microsoft, that has a cutting edge technology company in a cutting edge location, even he is susceptible to that emotional appeal of, hey, we have an idea for you. I'm wondering if we can just set a meeting and show it to you, right? So you can get in touch with him through LinkedIn. You could find his email. You could call him and just ask him. You could get on the phone. You could call the company and say, hey, can I speak with him, the CEO? You can start with the CEO. You don't have to start with the CMO. You can start with who is in charge. You can start with the CEO in every case and have them push you down. Sometimes the CEO has a policy to want to talk, or he's bored or not busy, or it's just the right day. You don't know, right? Don't make assumptions that people don't want to talk to you. Assume people are ready, willing, and able to buy from you. They want to talk to you. They've been waiting for you to call, but you cannot go into it thinking that you're going to talk everybody into that, or everyone's going to be that person. When you get a no or it's not that person, simply thank them, ask if there's a better time in the future, hang up and move on, right? It's something we'll talk about coming up. But the idea is that you can contact a startup and ask them for a meeting. You can do this through an email. You can send it through their info sometimes, as long as it's a customized pitch. We get a lot of spam kind of general pitches if we've been in business for a while, or been doing business or operating in a career space. So, in order to find leads, people to call, keep your eyes open. You can call anyone. You can find almost anyone's contact information through some clever ways, like I discussed, like looking at annual reports, looking at business licenses, looking up things that have been published, PDF files, CSV files that the county has published. You can get this local media. You can write stuff down. You can grab stuff off TV. You can see an ad that you like. Whatever it is, the idea is that you just need a phone number and you just need to call. And before you start making any of these calls, you're going to have to set the stage for success. Now, what that means is you want to do a few kind of technical things. Where I got this list from, my mom runs a dispatch center with computers and everything everywhere, right? And she said the number one rule is don't have any open top containers on your desk by your computer or your laptop, right? So you're probably going to want to have a bottle of water or something in case you get parched. Just make sure that you have a cap on it. You don't have a coffee cup, because when you're making cold calls, you're going to be reaching for things. You may be talking with your hands, and you could accidentally knock that cup over and ruin your computer. Then we have a lot bigger problems than getting an appointment and getting a lead to meet with you, right? So the next thing you want to do is you want to make sure that you don't really want to have any food at all within reach. You don't want to have any gum. You don't want to have any snacks. You don't want to be munching on things when you are on the phone, because people can hear it. People can hear you chew. So make sure you take everything out of your mouth. So it's a good idea not to have snacks around your desk. Another thing, in some sales environment, maybe like I don't want to say a boiler room, but when you're in close proximity, you can hear other people, right? So you want to make sure that you have it as quiet as possible when you are making your sales calls. You don't want to have any background noise. Whatever you can do to minimize that is best. If you're working from a home office or working from home, you want to make sure that you're not in an empty room because the sound reflections will bounce around, make you sound like you're in a bathroom. So make sure you have furniture, make sure that you are filling up all the kind of empty spots. If you have wood floors, you don't want those echoes in the background, right? You want to make sure that you have your cell phone. You want to turn that thing totally on silent. You don't want it on vibrate. You definitely don't want it to ring. So it is probably best just to put it on the total silent mode. I know you may be waiting for a call, but if it's your cold call time, then that's what you're doing, and most of these calls can wait. So you really want to eliminate distractions. You don't want to have another browser window open, browsing social media. You really want to be in the zone. So if you're making cold calls, anywhere from 15 to 90-minute blocks is what I recommend. Probably about a 30-minute block. 90-minute block is best. Another thing to kind of eliminate distractions is you want to make sure that your phone, whatever phone you're talking on, that the microphone is good. And if you have a phone and you're using a cell phone and your friends tell you or colleagues tell you, hey, I'm having trouble hearing you, or you know that you don't have the best device, odds are your clients can hear that. In a lot of cases, when you have a corporate job or you have a phone at home, they have headsets that you can wear that are very lightweight. They can be $200-$300. They're Bluetooth. They have them noise canceling. But I've found that when I'm able to make calls hands-free, not do this or do this, that it really works best. And along those terms, it's easy. Use your speakerphone, and because it's convenient for you to hear the sound. But I think we all kind of know that background sound feeling with the speakerphone on. So if you can, you really want to eliminate that as well. You don't really want to do these on a speakerphone, especially you never know what kind of noise can pop up in the background. If you are doing Zoom calls, you're doing video calls with your clients, you want to make sure that your room is clean, right? You want to make sure that the background is good. You want to make sure that there is enough light on your face. You could get a ring light, those sorts of things, but when you add in variables like that, it's adding more variables. So yes, a ring light would look good, if you have it adjusted properly, but you want to make sure that your microphones, your lines, things like that aren't a distraction, right? So if we have good enough light, like in this scenario, and a good enough microphone, good enough audio, with no distortion or crackles, then that's fine. It can be very distracting to have bad audio, but what can even be more distracting is a messy room. So if you can, beyond kind of having a messy room, is make sure that you have a good kind of composition behind you. Sometimes it's popular to use green screens for the background, or not green screens, but the virtual background. And if you don't have a green screen, it's going to kind of crop funny. It's going to kind of merge you into the background. So if you're going to do virtual background, you want to make sure you can get a green screen. You can go down to your local, office supply store and buy a poster board in a green color and put it on the wall behind you. And that will solve the problem. So what you're doing is you're eliminating distractions for yourself, and you're eliminating distractions for your clients. The last thing you want to have is, I always recommend having a pen and a notepad, like a legal pad. I make notes by hand. You can make notes in your system. Some of you will have a CRM to put them in, and that's fine to kind of log them live. But I always recommend having a good quality pen and paper right there, just to make notes on the call. Just something we'll talk about as a format for making notes. So, before you make cold calls, you want to do everything you can to tilt the odds in your favor. You want to make sure you have everything within reach that you need, everything out of reach that you don't need, and you want to spend all your time focusing and knocking these fucking bad boys out. We are going to talk about who to ask for on these cold calls. You want to talk to the owner of the company. You want to talk to the very highest person in charge that you can get a hold of. You are not bothering them. They want to hear from you. They want to funnel you down. You never know what kind of time they have, what kind of person they are, what kind of needs they have. That's the reason for a cold call, is, as I mentioned before, some of these people are waiting for you to call. I can't tell you how many times people have said, Michael, I've been waiting for someone like you to call me. I've been looking for a company like yours, or I've even said, hey, the company I'm with right now, I'm not very happy with. Can you call me back in a few months? I would really like to speak with you again about this. So you want to talk to the owner. So, if you're calling a small business, a small market enterprise, that's going to be a lot easier. You simply call the main line or the best number you can get a hold of, through research. If you find a direct line, a direct cell phone, you want to call and say, hi, is the owner there, please? That's it. It's okay for you to do that. Just call and say, is the owner there, please? Right? Or, if you are feeling a little coy about that, it is more than okay for you to say, hi, is the person in charge of marketing there, please? Now, the reason you don't want to do that is you are afraid that they're going to reject you. You are afraid that they don't want to talk to you. You are afraid of the feeling you're going to have at the end of the day when you get a whole bunch of no's. You are afraid of feeling like a failure, right? But who is it that you really want to talk to? I want to talk to the owner of the company. That's who I want to talk to. In a business, you delegate authority and you stay in your lane, but the owner of the company is involved in all things and knows the best place to put you, knows the best people to match you up with. Sometimes in some situations, if you come in at too low a level, that person could want to just talk to you to try and help you and really not be able to help you. So they can send you on kind of a wild goose chase. They can just like to chat with you because they're, a chatty Cathy, and could spend, 10, 15, 30 minutes on the phone with you and talk about absolutely nothing. You'll feel good, but you won't actually be doing anything, right? And then sometimes you come in at too low of a level and that person is intimidated or threatened by you or your service. A lot of times when I work with owners of companies, especially, funded companies, startups, things like that, there's already a marketing team in place. There's already a marketing director. There are already people who do what I do. And what my job is to either help them and supplement them or guide them, right? So the owner of the company, they don't know what you have to offer. This business doesn't know what you have to offer, right? Your offer, your business, the way you present your service, that is going to really affect the way that people look at you, right? So if I'm calling a local company or someone within my local market, let's even say, from a mile to statewide, so somewhere that recognizes me. So I would say, hey, my name's Michael. I am located here in Claremont. I own a digital marketing agency, and I have a team who specializes in marketing businesses like yours. I wanted to find out if you would be open to the possibility of meeting with me this week. And then you stop, right? So all I'm trying to do is I'm trying to let them know, hey, here is a local trust factor. I'm a local company. I offer digital marketing, right? As I move out further in the state, I'm going to say, hey, I'm a company based in Orlando, in the Orlando area, a digital marketing agency, and I have a team of people that specializes in marketing orthodontists like you, or we specialize in marketing service-based companies like yours, right? So I'm giving them indicators and I'm simply saying, would you be interested in having a meeting with me, right? If they're interested in having a meeting with me, then that's great. If they're not, then I don't want to talk to them, right? If they want me to try and sell it to them on the phone, I don't really have time to do that. I don't have time to do that. Now I know it won't work because you can't explain or sell such a complex thing over the phone as digital marketing in one call. Sometimes you can, but it's really 1 out of 100. So all I'm trying to do is I'm trying to figure out who is the person there that I should meet with, right? So sometimes I'll call and I'll say, hey, as like, for example, like when I got the meeting with Nike, I called, I found the biggest number I could, and I said, hey, is so-and-so there, right? And they said, yes, who are you with? And I said, my name's Michael. I'm with a company. We make a printer that interfaces with Snapchat. I think it would be really cool with some of your projects, and I'm just calling to find out if Mr. So-and-so or Mrs. So-and-so would be interested in meeting with me. And sometimes they'll go, yeah, hold on a second. And they'll transfer you, or sometimes they'll go, they're not taking calls right now. Can I take a message? Or they'll say, can you call back at a different time? Or sometimes you may just get that person right on the phone, right? So you don't have to ask for them if you know who is at the top, and you do get them on the phone. That's how, I'd mentioned that I had cold called the CEO, the co-creator of Guitar Hero, right? I cold called Mark Cuban. I cold called Jeffrey Katzenberg. I found their numbers and I picked up the phone and I called, right? So at a bigger company, maybe a startup, you'd say, hey, is the owner there, please, right? And they may go, which one, right? In that case, you could say, hey, is the person in charge of marketing there? right? Or is the person in charge of all the inventory there? Is the person in charge of buying so and so there? Hey, who might I talk to in regards to your marketing? Hey, my name is Michael. I'm with a company in Claremont, my local area. To the client, with a local marketing agency, and we have a team that specializes in marketing your type of business. And I'm just calling to find out who I might talk to set a meeting with you guys if you guys were interested in that sort of thing, right? You're just trying to discover who is the person in charge, right? So you want to call. Main thing is, hey, is the owner there, please, right? Beyond that, if it's a directory, you would say, hey, I'm trying to figure out who is the person in charge of this that I would talk to, right? And they will funnel you up sometimes, and that person will be more helpful or less helpful. A lot of times, as I mentioned, you can find these roles on LinkedIn or on shareholder reports or PDFs. But the main thing is, when you're making cold calls, you want to get to the person in charge and set a meeting with them. And that really boils down to just picking up the phone and saying, hi, is the owner there, please? What we need to talk about is, when is the right time to call? So you'll get leads, and sometimes they'll be in a different time zone, or sometimes you may feel it's inappropriate to call before standard work hours, before 8 a.m. or even at 8 a.m. Or you may find that it's inappropriate to call after 5 p.m., after the business day. Let me just tell you, you need to get that out of your head. If you have a lead, you can give them a call. If it is time for you to work, you can call them. Now, if you call them, if let's say you get a lead and they give you their cell phone and you call them and they're in bed, you don't know that's their cell phone, that's not on you. If someone calls you, you call them and get in touch. They don't have to pick up the phone, but you do need to call. Don't get yourself psyched out that there's a bad time for you to call. You don't know when the right time to call is, really. It is almost totally random, but the odds are in your favor if you are willing to pick up the phone and call. As I mentioned before, some of the very best salespeople I've worked with made the majority of their calls before 8 a.m. and after 5 p.m. The best explanation for this was, hey, Mike, this is when people are available. They're done with their day, or they haven't really gotten started. They have time to talk. Now, if you take this principle of not trying to make a one-call close, trying to sell everything on the first call, if you say, hey, the point of my cold call is to set an appointment to talk at an appropriate time. Well, see, right there, you don't have to ask if it's a good time. Hey, is it a good time to talk? You don't have to check if it's a good time. You don't have to check the time zone. Checking the time zone before you call is just a way to slow yourself down. You do not need to check the time zone. You don't need to do almost any research at all if you truly understand your product, service, and your customers as to why they respond to you and what their true pain points are and what they resonate with and what they respond to. So don't check what time zone they're in. Don't worry about the area code. I have a West Coast area code and I live on the East Coast, okay? So you could be deceived to thinking I'm on the wrong time zone. You could think that you're calling me at the right time or the wrong time. So it is best not to worry about the time. If you are working, if you're willing to get started making calls at 7:30, then call at 7:30. Call the business at 7:30. If you're calling small market enterprise, small business, you're calling maybe an AC contractor or service contractor, even in a law office, you may catch exactly the owner there answering their phone prior to their assistant coming in, prior to anything. So it is always best to just disregard your feelings about calling at the wrong time and to pick up the phone and make the call. We're going to talk about one of the most important and powerful principles that helped me really grow in my ability to generate business from thin air, in my ability to cold call, in my tolerance for cold calling, in my success with cold calling, my history of growing my business, growing my territories with cold calling. And that is this principle. Do not fucking leave messages. Don't fucking leave any messages. You do not get paid to talk to fucking answering machines. Don't fucking leave messages. When you call and you ask for the owner, which we'll talk about in another video, when you ask for the owner or the person in charge, they're going to ask you if you'd like to leave a message. No. No, I'll try back. That's it. You want to make as many calls as you can while you have time set aside for cold calling, because you want to get through the no's as fast as you can to get to the yeses. You want to spend your time with people who want to buy from you. You're determine as quickly as possible who is it that wants to have a meeting with you, and can they have the meeting, and when can they have it. So leaving messages is something that will make you maybe feel good, make you feel professional, but that's it. It's just going to make you feel good. At the end of the day, it's going to leave you exhausted, physically and mentally. You're just going to spin your wheels. No one wants to talk to answering machines all day. There are rare exceptions. When I cold called Mark Cuban, I left him a message on his voicemail, but I had his cell phone number, right? That's a very rare exception, right? When you're calling even blue chip companies, would you like to leave a message? They're not here right now. No, try back. You don't want to be the person always leaving messages. Oh, that's that person always leaving messages. You don't want to be that person. People will recognize your number. Some will block you for a robocall. Some systems won't, right? But when you call and you get in touch and they ask you if you'd like to leave a message, or you have the option to leave a message on a voicemail, don't. Call back a few days later. And then if they're not there, call back a few days later. And keep calling back. Eventually, they'll either tell you to stop calling, they'll talk to you, you'll get in touch with them, or they'll tell you when the right time is for you to call, or they will absolutely insist that you leave a message. Now, you leaving a message and them insisting is going to be based off of your professionalism, right? You're too busy to leave a message. You don't have time. You have to make 100 calls. You have to make your calls. You have to make 10 calls. Whatever your goal is, you have to make them. And I don't have time to talk to people who are not interested. I don't have time to leave messages. So in between calls, where most salespeople will take the time to leave a message, you're just going to hang up and move on to the next one. It is way more valuable for you to get somebody on the phone who is excited about talking to you and who wants to take the time to set a meeting with you. Even that shows, hey, I'm a busy person. I'm not trying to dump this on you right now. You don't have to stop what you're doing. I just wanted to find out if you'd even be open to the possibility of meeting with me. So remember this principle. Don't fucking leave messages unless you have their cell phone, or unless you're calling Jeffrey Katzenberg and it's his assistant and she says, yes, he's available. You know, can I help you or explain who's calling? Other than that, you don't want to leave a message and say, hey, it's Michael just calling about this. By the third or fourth, fifth call, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 calls over a month, a week, a year, they'll recognize your voice and go, hey, you always call. Who is it that you're with? And when they say that, they are pursuing you. So you're putting the ball in their court, and then you have the power in the deal, right? So it is a principle that you have more power in a deal if you're willing to walk away, right? I'm willing to walk away from this call again and again. If you're not there, I'm willing to walk away. So all these little tiny things project an image and make people feel a certain way about you, and it even sets the stage for how they're going to treat you when they do finally speak with you, or when you do finally get through. You know, a lot of times people say, hey, this guy's been calling, and this girl's been calling a lot, and is very professional, very nice. I think you should talk to them. People will vouch for you just off the tone of your voice and not being pushy and not coming across like everyone else. Every other salesperson is going to be leaving messages because it feels good and it looks good and it's recommended. And there's all kinds of arguments for it. Well, I'm not fucking trying to get the regular results. I want to be the fucking best, right? And there's things that you have to do differently. Now, even if this principle is a little too hardcore for you, there's an essence here, right? It's to keep moving and do not slow down. Don't do things that feel good as a substitute for doing things that are the right thing to do. When you have this sort of pursuit in front of you, cold calling, you're going to have the highest highs and the lowest lows. That means when you make it, you're going to make money, a lot of money, as much as you want, truly, out of thin air. And the lowest lows is going to be days with nothing. Right? And before you get that first success and before you see these principles again and again, it's going to feel weird not leaving messages. It's going to feel weird. What's not going to feel weird is making 500 calls in a week and getting yourself 10 appointments. That's not going to feel weird. What's not going to feel weird is figuring out that you can be on the phone for 4 hours because you have the energy, because you're not constantly being rejected talking to answering machines. It's so degrading. Don't do it. We're going to talk about what to say when you make a cold call. Now, the most important thing about making a cold call is that your goal is to set an appointment. The odds that you can explain something adequately over the phone, get someone's attention, especially a decision maker, the right person, they're not going to have time in their schedule, especially if they're capable of buying from you or making the decision to buy from you. Most of them are not going to want to stop what they're doing, but the odds that they will be interested in setting an appointment with you are much higher. Now, this also gives you a chance to build a sense of anticipation, maybe send over some materials in the meantime, in between your meeting. Also make a confirmation call or have an assistant make a call for you on your behalf to confirm the meeting. There are a lot of benefits to setting an appointment rather than trying to make the sale. As well, it gives a sense that you're very busy, that you are in demand, that you are genuinely interested in meeting with them in the future. Now, making cold calls or calling around trying to make a deal or set up there is no shame in that. There's nothing sleazy about it. That is making deals. That is being entrepreneurial, right? So if you have time set aside in your day to make cold calls, even if you're an account executive, you have to do a certain amount of account management, work with current accounts. Maybe you have hot leads that come in. Cold calling is to grow, right? Cold calling is to get more than what you have, right? And that's the kind of the sky's the limit. So when you're calling these businesses, what you want to do is you want to find out if they are open to the possibility of meeting with you, right? You want to find out, hey, would you be open to having a meeting with me? I just wanted to find out if you guys would be open to the possibility of setting up a meeting with us. And once you get that question out, you want to kind of zip it up. So when you make the call, so let's say a small market enterprise, small business, local business, you find a phone number in a lead magnet, in a lead source like we discussed, like a coupon book magazine or a web search or lead generation tool where you have these numbers kind of ready to go in front of you when you sit down and make your calls. And you are basically going to call and say, hey, hi, is the owner there, please? That's it. Is the person in charge of marketing there, please? Is the person in charge of inventory for the shop there, please? Right? And that person will say, this is the owner. They'll say, no, they're not here. They'll say, no, they're not here. Would you like to leave a message? They'll say, the owner doesn't come here. This isn't how you get in touch with the owner. Why do you need to speak with the owner? And those are all very fair and valid questions. And you shouldn't try and tiptoe or tap dance around any of them, especially if they say, no, they're not here. Would you like to leave a message? As we discussed in another video about leaving messages, I'll try back. Would you like to leave a message? The owner's not here? No, I'll try back. No, they're not here. Okay, thank you. I'll try back. Would you like to, I can take a note? That's okay. I'll try back. So you call, hi, is the owner there, please, right? When you call a blue chip company, maybe you have the name through research, as we discussed, through searching the web for shareholder reports or searching LinkedIn for exactly the right person at a company to get in touch with. Hi, is Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so available? Right? A lot of times they have an assistant. Or maybe you get their direct line, you call and you say, hi, Mr. Jorgensen. And they say, yes, who is this? Right? Hi. Now, when you do get the owner on the phone or the person in charge, you're going to have the ability to basically set an appointment with them to talk to them in the future about your product or service, or to set up that call for maybe someone else if you are more of an opener for people. So when you call and they say, hi, is the owner there, please? And they say to you, yes, who am I speaking with, please? Tell them, hey, this is Michael. I am with a digital marketing company in Claremont. That's it. If they let you through, they let you through. And if they go, okay, what are you looking for? Okay, if they ask for more information, then I'm going to give them what is called my elevator pitch, which is a few major items that are going to let them know that I am a great fit for them and let me know if I'm a good fit or not a good fit. And in this case, I'd say, yes, I have a digital marketing company in Claremont. We've been around since 2011. I have a team of people who are really good at doing digital marketing for contractors. And I wanted to find out if Mr. So-and-so would be open to setting a meeting with us. Now, at a smaller business or a business that has a person who is very tightly integrated with the owner, now when you call these companies, especially small market enterprises, the person that answers the phone, they work hand in hand with the owner of the company in many cases. Sometimes they've been with the owner of the company and worked with them for free prior to the level of growth they've achieved. So just because someone doesn't have a title does not mean that they are not intimately connected with the decision maker. It could be the spouse, it could be a partner or a close friend filling in at that moment because the regular secretary or person that answers the phone is away, or the answering service is off maybe for the week or the month or in between, or for some reason with timing, right? So it's always okay to be polite and professional and direct, but you don't want to do what's called throw up. You don't want to try and explain your product and your service and say all these things unless they pursue you. See, that's part of this, is when you tell someone, hey, this is Michael with so-and-so, and they ask for more information, that's a good sign. They're in pursuit of you. So you're not being questioned or interrogated like, oh no, they caught me, I'm cold calling. A lot of times companies are looking for exactly what you need, and there is I don't want to say the company, there's water cooler talk, or there's the companies that people work together so often that they know what the needs are. So maybe it's a large mechanic shop that is looking for a new supplier on a certain type of inventory, or a certain selection of tools or items they use, or it could be any number of things. It could be a legal service looking for for their industry, or it could be a doctor looking for someone to fill in a space with a certain type of medical equipment or machinery or expertise or specialty. So within the company what the needs are. We're looking for this type of person, or we haven't been able to find this type of thing. I'd mentioned that the 3 reasons every business loses customers is because the customer is satisfied, they are disappointed, or they move to a new area. And I mentioned, in some cases it's because they pass away. That's also a factor. But you are calling and you are looking for a business that is one of those situations with someone that provides to them. The business is not happy with them, or the company they were working with has moved away, or the company they were working with has gone out of business. See, that's just a matter of timing, and that's a matter of putting in the work. Over time, sometimes you get lucky on the first day, sometimes you get lucky on the first call. So you get fortunate, I would say. But over time, if you are calling around within the marketplace trying to discover, where this is, that's like going out and fishing or going out and hunting. It's no different from trying to put food on your table or extra food on your table. It's you going out and participating in your own rescue, essentially. If you want to get to the next level, then you have to participate in that process, and cold calling is part of that, right? And so basically, you are trying to find the people who are ready, willing, and able to buy from you, as we mentioned. So, hi, this is Michael. Is the owner there, please? Or, hi, is the owner there, please? Right? You don't even have to introduce yourself. The owner is here. How can I help you? What are you looking for? Oh, my name's Michael. I have a digital marketing company in Claremont. We've been around since 2011. I have a team of people that's really good at doing marketing for contractors, and I was just calling to see if the owner would be interested in setting a meeting with us. Now, that person can funnel you on to the next person or the right person. If they don't give you to the owner, you're not defeated, right? That's even better. If they say, okay, well, I can take a message. Okay, no, it's okay. I'll give a call back, right? And when you call back, they're going to go, no, the owner's still not here. Or they're going to let you know, hey, we're not interested right now. Or they're going to say, I don't think they'd be interested. And it's okay for you to go, oh, that's okay. Is there a better time for me to give you guys a call back in the future? And they'll go, no, or they'll go, you know what, we're working with somebody right now, I know, but I know that's coming to an end, so maybe call back in a couple of months or in a week. That's where having your pen and paper is going to come in handy. Keep notes of what was said. So I like to just write down the name of the business, the phone number, who I talked to, and if there was a voicemail, or if they weren't in, or if I talked to the owner, or whatever notes they told me about the call, whatever information I ascertained, I like to write that down on a sheet of paper and then transfer that to the CRM. I like to have a copy written down of what happened with the date, time of the call, all those important details, what was said, who I talked to, sometimes in shorthand, whatever works for you, right? But you want to have that pen and paper there to keep track of this. The person you talk to answer the phone, maybe if you built a relationship, right? Oh, hey, hi, Wendy. It's nice to talk to you again. You can over time build a relationship with people with just very short amounts of contact, right? And that's what gets people to let you through. Right? You're not the only salesperson calling. They're getting their phone. The telephone is ringing all day long from all sorts of salespeople, good, bad. And you know what? People buy products from bad salespeople all the time because they're looking for that product or service. So imagine the alignment when you call and you are doing the right things, saying the right things, not pressuring them, trying to sell in the moment, giving them the time and the space to set a meeting when they can focus and really listen to you. At that point, you can share a deck with them in person, a pitch deck. You can do a screen share with them. You can have a call where you go through items, you listen to them and have them tell you their experience, right? So when you call, you're going to ask for the owner. You're going to give them your stadium pitch, right? Let's say the owner gets on the phone, right? And they go, hey, Michael, this is John. How can I help you, right? Or like Mark said, Mark Cuban, he said, hey, Mike, it's Mark. How can I help, right? And I'd left a message telling him, what I was looking for, but then that was time for me to give him my elevator pitch. And so to come up with something off the top of your head is going to be difficult every time. You want to be consistent with this elevator pitch, right? So the owner gets on the phone. You want to say, hey, Mark, my name is Michael. I'm with a digital marketing company here in Claremont, or I'm here with a digital marketing company over on the other side of Orlando. Depending on your geography, you want to relate to them in a way that's relevant if that's a factor, right? Hey, Mark, this is Michael. I'm with a digital marketing company here in Claremont, and I have a team of people that works great with contractors like you, contractors like your type of business, and I'm just calling to find out if you would be open to the possibility of having a meeting with us. And then you zip it, right? So let's try again. Hey, Mark, this is Michael. I am calling you. I'm from Chescla Media. I own the businesses here in Claremont. Been here since about 2011. And I have a team of people that's really good at working with contractors. And I'm just calling to find out if you guys would be open to setting a meeting with us. Right? And so as you go through and you say this again and again, you're going to stumble, right? And I hope you did notice that I stumbled the second time, right? That's called getting the rocks out of your mouth. Right? This is a real thing. It doesn't matter how many times I've gone through this pitch or how many times I do it. The first few times when I get back warmed up or in a new forum, you got to get the rocks out of your mouth, right? And you can practice this again and again until you get it refined. You can go, let's try again. We go, hey, Mark, nice to talk to you. My name's Michael, as I mentioned. I am calling you my company. It's called Chescla Media. We're here in Claremont. It's a digital marketing company. We do really, really good with contractors. I have a team of people that does all the Facebook and website and all the Google, all the different types of marketing. And I'm just calling to find out if you'd be open to setting a meeting with me. Right? Or if you have grinder pads, as I mentioned, hey, Mark, this is Michael. I saw your shop and we have really great inventory on grinder pads and some other items I know you guys probably carry. I was just calling to find out when would be a good time if you'd be open to having a meeting with me. That's it, right? And it's going to be tempting, and then I hope you heard at the end. This is very important too. It's going to be very tempting to over talk and to keep talking, right? When you're making cold calls, you want to talk as little as possible. You want to talk 10 to 20% of the time, right? So, hey, Mark, this is Michael. I saw your shop the other day. I drove by, or whatever is relevant, right? You can work in these factors, right, that help you connect. Now, this essence of kind of thinking on your feet and making a connection with the customer, that's something that you're going to develop as a salesperson over time. That's a skill that you're going to naturally develop. It's a soft skill that's going to help you in a very, very hard way, and it's a very hard thing to do. But it's very, I hope you notice, very subtle. Hey, Mark, my name's Mike. I noticed your shop. I think you guys carry a bunch of things that my company sells, like grinder pads, different cleaners. And I know we've got some great prices and stuff, but I wanted to call and see maybe if you'd be open to set a meeting with me about that sort of thing, your inventory, products we have, and maybe how we're a little bit different than maybe some people you've worked with before. Just wanted to see if you'd be open to that. Right? So even if you overtalk, or even if you don't say exactly the same thing, you're just trying to get to that point to where you're saying, hey, here's why you should listen to me. Here's why I think that we'd be a good connection. Would you be open to have a meeting with me? Right? And if they say, you know what, I'm not really interested in that, thanks for calling, you say thank you, and you get off the fucking phone. Right away, you get off the fucking phone, right? You get off the phone as fast as possible, right? And you don't get off the phone as fast as possible out of spite or because of defeat or to try and be rude. You get off the phone because they've just done you a favor. They've let you know you don't need to spend any more time talking to me. If you spend another second with me, the person who's a yes, they could actually be literally walking away from that moment where you could speak with them. So you better get off the phone with me as quickly as possible and dial again. Right? That's why I say if leaving messages, don't leave messages. That's why I say don't worry about what time to call. You want to get to the next call. And so they may go, you know what? Now's not really a good time. I'm kind of working with somebody. And you go, okay, you're working with another company. Yeah, but you know what? Could you maybe tell me a little bit about, what you guys do or Mike and if they're going to ask you a question, we do a lot of digital marketing, but you want to bring it back. You don't want to try and sell your company or your product or service in detail or explain the differences, over the phone. You want to bring it back to, I was just calling to set a meeting with you. I know you're busy. I'm making calls today, trying to get in touch with people that I think, would be a good fit for us. And I'm just calling to see if you want to set a meeting with us, right? You want to bring it back to that setting a meeting, right? And so, sometimes they'll go, hey, well, you know what? Give me a call back in about a year. They mean that shit. You can call them back in a year and they'll be happy to hear from you, right? Or they'll say, call me back in 6 months or 3 months or 2 weeks. And when you call back, they may tell you to call back again. That's where you make the note and you call back. And then when you're done and you put the notes into your CRM on a computer, that's when you set your auto reminder in the future, hey, give so-and-so a call, right? So, if they call you and you go, hey, now it's not really a good time, Mike. You go, hey, you know what? I'll give you a call back. Thanks. I'll try again in a few days. And if they really want to talk to you, they'll go, well, hold on, just try me tomorrow around 5, or why don't you give me a call back after 5? If they go, oh, all right, that's fine, thank you, bye. Don't try and say anything else. Just give them a call back in a few days and start over and go, hey, is John there? Right? And when they get on the phone, hey, John, gave you a call the other day. It's Michael with Cheska Media, company here in Claremont. We do digital marketing. I have a team. We do really good with contractors. I was just calling to see if there would be a good time for me to come in and explain to you guys what we do and have a meeting with you about maybe how we can help. And you leave it at that, right? Because that is what you're trying to get out of a cold call, not a sale, not trying to get them to buy. Even if you have something they can buy over the phone, it is best for you to set an appointment so you can follow a sales process. Just like a scientific method, there's a sales process where if you follow the steps and be consistent and you use feedback over time, you can have something that works. Because one thing that's consistent is human psychology, right? People are different types of communicators, but human psychology works in a very similar way. And a sales process with an interested buyer who's open, ready, willing, and able is going to be almost exactly the same every single time with very few differences, right? You want to trust and follow your system that you develop and build over time. So when you're on the phone, you go, hey, I wanted to find out if you'd like an appointment with me. And they go, you know what, Mike? No, I would. That sounds interesting. What is it that you guys do? And it's okay to chat a little. We've had some projects that went really well where we got people a lot of search traffic and we helped them grow their business. And, I'll come in and I'll show you exactly what we did. Let them know what to look forward to. I'll show exactly what we did. It'll take, half hour if you like me. It's okay to make them laugh. It's risky to use humor, but in more advanced levels of sales, it's going to come out, but you always want to be yourself. That's something that works for me. It may not work for you. Hey, when I come in, we'll just go through, you can tell me all about, what you're dealing with right now and, kind of what your expectations are, what you're looking for. And that's part of, the sale, which, is a whole different part, but you want to let them know that the whole point of the meeting is for you to find out how you can help them, right? So I wanted to have a meeting. Of course, I'm going to show you my stuff, but I want to find out how we can help you. And, if it's a good fit, I'll show you exactly what we can do. And if not, I'm not going to waste your time, right? So, you are basically going, hey, I'm going to set a meeting with you when you have time to focus on me and time to listen to me. And I'm not willing to spend time with you unless you're willing to make a commitment to me, right? And so in the overall big picture, if they're willing to commit time to you in their schedule, there's a lot of things in their life that they have to rearrange, right? Everything from family to hobbies to business activities. So for them to make a commitment to you is already a major, major buying signal, right? And if it's yourself or a salesperson you're queuing up for that's going to go in and pitch this, time is so valuable literally the dollar amount, the figure, the financial figure for them to be there, right? So you only want to spend your time with people who want to buy from you. And so that's why you're queuing these people up, right? So if they say, yes, Michael, you know what, I'd like to set a meeting with you. That'd be great. Okay, hey, I was wondering if you were available. Pick the next day as soon as possible. Doesn't have to be the same day. Pick the next day, right? The next business day. Hey, would tomorrow at 2 p.m. work for you? Right? Oh, yeah, Mike, that would be great. Give me a call. Okay, perfect. You know what? Let me send you an email over, with my information, and I'll give you a call then, right? And they go, okay. Well, what's your email, right? And they'll give you they will give you their email in many cases, and that's when you can send over a link, lead magnet, your contact information, and then you can let them know, hey, you know what? I'll give you a call tomorrow at that time, right? Or if you're going to do a virtual meeting, go, hey, you know what? I'll send you an email with the link to the meeting. We'll do Google Hangout. Let them know what platform. Try and keep it simple. Try and keep it on a platform that's universal. You don't want to get hung up on software issues. If it's just a call, hey, I'll give you a call at this time. If you're setting a meeting with them and they go, hey, you know what, I don't have time this week, but next week on Thursday, if it's a few days out in the future, more than 5 business days or so, more than 3 business days, you or yourself or an assistant, you want to have them call the day before and go, hey, just calling to confirm we're good for tomorrow at 2 o'clock. Right? Or just calling, we're just calling to have, if you have an assistant, hey, this is Michael's assistant, and just calling to confirm that you're still good for tomorrow at 2. And they can do that with their assistant, right? And that's something, if you have that capability, you can go, you know what, next week at 5, you know what I'll do? I'll give you a call, I'll have my assistant give you a call the day before, make sure you're still good, and I'll talk to you then. If you have an assistant, that's really a power move. So here's kind of a teeter here. You want to keep your word and be a person of your word. Now, when you're getting into taking bigger risks with sales and you commit to these principles, what I really, really believe and commit to is say, hey, I'll give you a call at 2 o'clock next week, or I'll send you the link and I'll see you then. Then you talk to them, right? So having your assistant call to confirm, that's a good thing. That's a professional thing. But really, if you really want to give yourself the maximum amount of time, let them know when you're going to call, send them an email with a link, your contact information, and call them at that day or time. Now, if they're a really great prospect, they'll keep that meeting with you, or they'll reschedule with you. If they no call, no show, or they forget, that's no question. I personally have a 0 tolerance, no call, no show policy, right? Now, if you call them, they go, Mike, I totally forgot. Can we reschedule for tomorrow at 2? No problem. I'll give you a call then. No problem at all. Don't give them any shade at all. Not for any of the times, right? Not for any of the times that they miss it. If they miss it a bunch of times, go, my pleasure. I'd love to talk to you then. And then give them a call back, right? It's going to be a big relief to them. You're going to come across totally different. So when you call, you're going to ask for the owner, and you're going to ask to set an appointment. You're going to give them an elevator pitch that tells them who you are, where you're from, how you can help them. And if they ask for more information, you're going to tell them a couple quick examples of how you've helped companies like them in their situation, or examples of the types of problems you've solved, and you're going to bring it back to setting that appointment, right? And if they really insist on making the call over the phone or making the sale over the phone, I want you to engage them one time to just see how much of a time waste it is, and how impossible it is, and how you can easily talk yourself out of a sale. So your goal is to ask for the person in charge and set an appointment, get that time confirmed, get their contact information, and then, my friend, you have gotten the goal. You have made your cold call sale.